enjoy what you see and hear, remember we are 100% listener supported, so visit the site support page to help keep us on air. All contributions, big or small, are greatly appreciated. You may contribute by PayPal, and if you're not comfortable with that, then you can find an address where you can send a donation. Thank you for being a part of Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
And don't forget, we are worldwide radio. Your world, your life, your mind is what we discuss on Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com.
Revolution Radio.
Worldwide Internet Radio at freedomslips.com.
Now, on Revolution Radio.
Let me see your war face. You got a war face? Ah! That's the war face!
Impact Zone. With your host, Francis.
Brace yourself for immediate disintegration.
That's a war face. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Francis Walsh, and I'm not answering the phone because it's live time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In New York City, you just got out of work, and you're wondering what's going on over here on Revolution Radio. I can tell you that today is the first day of the Impact Zone with your host, Francis Walsh, me. I am a researcher who produces videos on YouTube about astronomy and radio shows about the same sort of topics. I like to call myself a 2012 researcher because that's what it seems I am a lot of the times, is researching the next great catastrophic event that is somehow associated to this year, 2012. I want you to know that today is an important day because it is the first day of a Monday through Friday show for me, and if you didn't know it already, radio's hard to do, so let's put on our war face. Ah, war face. All right. If you didn't know it, we're going to have Donny Gillson on in a few minutes, but I want to just quickly go over a couple of articles because it is the premise of the show, the Impact Zone. The Impact Zone is going to hopefully bring you a lot of discussion that are opposing views. You have one view over here. Person, researcher, topic says one thing. You have another researcher, person, topic over here says another thing. On the Impact Zone, we're going to bring it together because there are very many places that, if you're a researcher, you can fall into traps of disinformation. And here we're going to go. I'm going to start off with this little bit of article information, then we're going to go right to Donny Gillson at about quarter after the hour. Quote, unquote, from space.com, crackpot theory of everything reveals dark side of peer review. A quote-unquote theory of everything from a scientist at Case Western Reserve University got a lot of attention for positing or supposing or insinuating that inanimate objects, from plants, planets, and water to strands of DNA are alive. Not only is the assertion bunk, but the scientific and media phenomena surrounding the study reveals how sometimes crackpot ideas can get traction. The paper by CWRU biochemist Eric Andrulis was published in the journal Life and says all physical phenomena can be explained by gyres, quote-unquote gyres, G-Y-R-E-S. Gyres, according to this theory, transform energy, matter, and information to create the physical systems we're all familiar with, such as the phase transitions of water and the chemicals life is made of. Everything around us oscillates between excited and ground stasis. They pivot around the center of these lifelike gyres. He doesn't say that everything is alive exactly, though he says gyres have lifelike characteristics. It isn't clear exactly how this works, according to the researcher, though because he never explains it, at least not in a way that is testable. For example, at one point in the paper, Andrelis says large objects like planets can be described as macroelectrogyres, and that repulsive and attractive forces in the solar wind cause the planet to make its closest approach to the sun, called perihelion, and to drift farther away from the sun to its aphelion. That is, expulsion of macrophotons repel the macroelectrogyre, the planet, into a higher state energy, resulting in perihelion. The planet dissipates energy and falls into a lower energy state, resulting in aphelion. The article goes on to state that most astronomers and physicists will tell you that perihelion and aphelion are simply the points in an orbit where a planet is closest and farthest from the sun, and they do not recognize this researcher's information as being credible. The problem with the report made by the researcher is that it reached a level of publication to which gave it credibility, and in the end hurts the science more than it progresses the science. And they say here, crackpot science? It's also possible that the theory actually says something rather different, but it is hard to decipher from the paper. Andrelis has not responded to phone calls, nor has he answered questions sent by email, though he has said he would. Even referring back to the definitions of terms that Andrelis uses in the paper, many of his logical steps don't seem to make much sense. And in this, I'm taking somebody's research directly from science and interpolating it or putting it in place of some of the topics we're going to talk about on the impact zone. The article continues on speaking about peer review and how peer review works, and it's fair to note that most scientific research, review, and peer review is done on a voluntary basis. Much like the radio shows you'll hear on talk radio, the hosts get on the radio, and they are talking on their own dime. Many of the scientific reviewers are reviewing other scientists' papers as a benefit to science in general. What happened with this researcher is that he wrote the paper and he hand-selected the peer reviewers, and then when they made the submission for publication, it was accepted as peer-reviewed, although it was found to be a bunch of crackpot science. The next article is Top Science Journal Retractions of 2011. Bad science papers can have lasting effects. Consider the 1998 paper in the journal The Lancet that linked autism to the MMR vaccines for measles. Now, I don't want anyone to infer that I'm talking about the topic of the MMR vaccine for measles. I was just talking about the science. And whether you agree or disagree with the science, I'll tell you that the scientific community has taken action against this particular research. That appear for measles, mumps, and rubella. That paper was fully retracted in 2010 upon the evidence that senior author Andrew Wakefield had manipulated data and breached several proper ethical codes of conduct. What you have there is someone not following the rules of research and then submitting the content as factual when, in all honesty, it was anything but factual. What we have in these examples are science gone astray. I make this point because here at the Impact Zone, I would like to introduce the science that has gone astray to researchers and scientists and science with the opposing view. As easy as it is to never get an answer about a certain researcher or a certain research, sometimes a particular statement is made and it's just over time forgotten about. And I don't feel that bad science should be promoted or propagated by those of us who are trying to accomplish a sincere goal of learning more about the space outside our atmosphere and the world around us. And in my case in personal, Francis Walsh, the amateur astronomer, I've had reason to bump heads with a number of other researchers. And in fact, the discussion usually relegates itself down to, even on my part, a little bit of name calling and a little bit of he said, or she said, or he said, she said. The Impact Zone, I'm hopefully going to find enough willing participants to join in a discussion of head-to-head opposing views on the things that matter to us. The reason why I brought up the first two articles is to show you the connection, if you feel there isn't always a connection with science, to the researchers you'll find most prevalent on YouTube looking into the topics that we like to look into. I understand that sometimes science, hardcore scientists and science can be every bit of dry and uninteresting as anything else in the world. At the same time, I know that there are very creative and talented people doing research that they feel is very important to them, and in the end, if it's important to them, it's important to everyone else. And I find that not to be entirely true. So, without further ado, let me get on the right screen. I want to welcome you to the first Impact Zone, February 6, 2012. My nemesis, my anti-Francis, I don't know what you're doing, Donny Gillson. It's Donny Gillson, everybody. Yay!
Yay! Man, your enunciation of scientific terms are about as good as mine.
Yeah. Terrible.
They're terrible. Mine are absolutely terrible too. And sometimes I'm like the basana, the bojana, bubara babina. Right. Yeah, that's it. And we try to sound all scientific, like, you know. Okay.
Before, because I don't think it's fair for me to unveil all my naivety and inexperience and amateur viewpoints, because, you know, in all honesty, they are, but they can be very powerful as well. Any real viewpoint a person holds can be powerful, and as far as they can share it, spread it, push it on others, and affect them in a positive or negative way. But Donnie, how are you?
I'm doing well, Francis. Congratulations on your new show. Now it's a Monday through Friday thing, is that?
A Monday through Friday, a short hour, and you know why I want to do it. I want to have a place for you and me to come and yell at each other, basically, and if there's other people who feel like they really want to bump, because you know as well as I do that for every video you make, there is a small group of people, or maybe a large group of people, we won't even say who they are, that opposes your views just as well as they oppose my view. My views. But let's not just hum and haw. I don't want to patronize you at all. You know what this is supposed to be about is you're supposed to take something and throw it in my face and tell me, Francis, what is this? And why is it in my life? And Donnie, I'm supposed to give you an answer. So
yeah, you are, Francis. You're the astronomer. You're the expert. Come on, man.
Now listen, you know, expert. You know, you're throwing blankets on everything. I will tell you that I have personal opinions. Sure. And whether they be right or whether they be wrong, I hold them dear to me, just as well as you do. And this is how two people can get in a lot of fervor over their opposing sides. Now, I've literally done the wrong thing by starting our first interactions by calling you out in a bad way. And calling you out in a bad way is putting my bad vocabulary and adjectives before your research or before your name. And for all the listeners now, Francis is learning that there's better ways to do this, but at the same time, if you're going to patronize, or if that's the right word, if you're going to hold back some of those feelings, then you need to get into a real discussion face-to-face and hash it out, right?
Exactly. 100% agree.
Because if my emotions and my temperature is getting hot, I shouldn't be shouting at an empty microphone, or I shouldn't be leaving a dead comment in a place that you'll come back later and see. I should, you know, we should meet head to head, and then we decide to where we go. Now, I'm gonna stop talking eventually, and you're gonna be able to speak. But I'll tell you, Donnie, that, you know, you've had advice from your friends, and I had advice from my friends. I don't know how many more times you and I will have this conversation, but I promise you that I will not use bad vocabulary in your direction anymore, because I don't think that's fair. I think I was not the better man in choosing the wrong words to interact with you through comments and what have you. Okay.
And the same holds true for me, Francis. I think we should be handling it. You know, we're all seeking the truth in our own special way.
Easy, Donnie.
Huh?
You're crazy.
Hey man, I would, so they say some of the best shrinks in the world are the craziest guys in the world. I honor being called crazy, nutcase, whatever, because of my views and my opinions, because it allows others to think outside the box. And that's you talked about science and the hardcore science, how dry it is, and how science can be quite boring actually, Well, it is quite boring. And one of the things that you said is you like to separate fact from fiction, and that you'd be more down the lines of what is fact and what is fiction, and that how fact can't really turn into fiction. Well, I disagree with that. I'm the man that I look down at things on the esoteric side. I look at things, how would people describe this stuff, back in the early in the early civilizations? These are the things that we need to look at, because science itself doesn't give us the hardcore evidence that we need if we see stuff that doesn't make much sense to us. So we have to start using our imagination. Einstein once said, if you can imagine it, it's probably true.
Well, Donnie, just because you can think it up doesn't make it true, though, my friend.
Well, and as I've always...
You're very creative. And now, I want to say this now, because I think it's important, too. I have my personal opinions, but I looked at your latest video today, okay? And whatever, somebody said, oh, my God, he's looking at that, oh, no, he's changed, oh, my God. Listen, Donnie, you make, the intros, the music, the editing you do, mm-hmm. I've honestly had a good feeling. I know what I'm about to see, okay? And so somehow, or not somehow, I can see how people are on your side, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say, and though I may say, I hope at least they have more than one source of information, mm-hmm. Your content is very entertaining. And I don't want to say entertaining and, it's spit on it entertaining, you know what I mean? Okay. Entertainment has a value, okay?
It does.
But I think, for me, because, I don't go there, and I know that trolls and shills, and they're all out there, and they all are a part of it, and it's easy to call somebody one thing, and it's actually harder to stand up to that and make what you say come true. That's why, whatever I said before, Donnie, I apologize, okay? Because that's the way to treat another human being, because, Donnie, you're not going to stop doing what you're doing, and I know darn well is that, and I would be hitting my head up against a wall to think that anything I say is going to change the enjoyment that you get out of making the videos, because we all enjoy doing them, and then on top of that, because I did find myself enjoying the intro and the music and thinking to myself, Donnie's, working hard at this, but I can't step over that and say, oh my God, Donnie, I found something that you're really right about, because I have yet to find something you're really right about.
Well, and that's to each his own. As I've always said, to everybody that listens to my videos, anybody that listens to my radio show, 32 Degrees of Insanity, everybody has to make their own decisions. Don't follow me. Don't agree with me. If you do agree with me, do your own research. Question everything, including me. That's what Buddha once said to all of us, Well,
that's why I question you.
Well, of course.
And
but questioning and attacking is a totally different thing. And that's where I got upset, when people started attacking my personal, we had that conversation on my show, when you came on talking about the Musgrave photo. I believe I have the real one. I still believe there's an astronomer conspiracy.
And I believe you're wrong, Donny Gillson. But
that is your
it's somebody else's photo. You should get that photo out of your mouth.
Well, I haven't been using it much at all, but I use it as a compare and contrast now of other things that I have taken, and I'm like, well, this looks like the same object to me. We're on kind of the kick with this B 1938-666. That is that's the main object that I'm kind of focusing on right now, which I think is a small solar system right outside of our own solar system. Could it be the Nibiru solar system? I don't know. Could it be? Could it be just strolling out there in the universe? I don't know. Maybe it's always been there. I don't know. Maybe I just caught it. I don't know.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew we were having this, though I was worried a little bit today and I let it be. I left you a couple of Skype messages. I wasn't sure, but I know everybody's busy, so I do appreciate you for being here today. And if we don't get into a drag-out, brawl-out fight, well, then that's the way it was supposed to be, everyone. So, it's going to go the way it's going to go. But listen, reviewing some of your stuff, I didn't really have a bad taste in my mouth because I've personally eliminated the bad taste out of my mouth. And I think everybody should. What?
I said, as have I.
And I think everyone should take an opportunity, and I always usually find something weird to say. It's like, I like to think that some of the answers may never be given to us, and that's okay? Because if you have to have that answer, it's going to drag you down most of the time. And as far as the other, we should just, get it out. Oh, but here we go. Sedna. I was reading on the YouTube channel, I think, Donny Gillson's YouTube channel, that you believe Sedna is a part of the Nibiru complex solar system, or have you changed that opinion? And it was listed in your YouTube thing, because I'm going to start doing research on Sedna, so I wanted to hear your input.
This was, something that came to me in some automatic writing that on the esoteric side that I think she's talking about what I wrote about on my opening. I don't know. I have no idea what this is where my research is sending me. This is where my soul is sending me. But we'll see where I look back at some of the stuff that I did months ago.
Does it seem crazy?
It seemed crazy, but it really does, but yet it's an evolving process. I mean, I'm brand new to all this too, shoot, man, when I saw that blue moon in my binoculars for the first time, I was like, holy freaking crap. I still have my reservations about it because a lot of people say, well, it's because you're using optical dual, you've got so many lenses going on. Well, no, because when you look through the binoculars in real time, you see the damn thing. And that's, without the video cameras or anything. And, all people that I've brought this to, and I'm like, hey, you look at this in real time. A video is a video. But when you're here with me in the flesh, and and that's why I used to go out and I used to actually, go out and meet people on the street, and I would go and I'd say, hey, you take a look at this and you tell me what you see. And it would be, this engaging conversation. And those were what I tried.
Yeah, but that's like asking a hungry wolf if your arm looks like dinner. I mean, what I mean?
Of
course it looks like dinner.
To me, people say, well, you're not using scientific. I'm an entertainer, as you said. I'm a guy that loves to be creative. I use I use my right and left hemisphere of my brain. I try to use my creative side just as much as my mathematical side, because it's the way I work. It's just the way I've always worked. I just look outside the box.
Is it then luck that everyone that gets involved with some of the research is right? And because, listen, and I have to go to some of the recent stuff. I mean, you've got some stuff about the globe, the blue marble. You're in debate with some really, I find to be quite correct people. And
well, here's the thing. Let me just contact on my brand new video that I just released. We're now showing the western and eastern hemisphere. Well, one of the arguments is, well, this satellite is 815 miles above the Earth's surface, or 815 kilometers above the Earth's surface, and I find a 2001 photo that says it's 700 kilometers, and now you're seeing the real Earth. So what's the math on that? That doesn't equal out, Francis.
No, the satellite imagery was taken as if the satellite was 2,100 miles above the Earth, because the placement of the satellite didn't determine the actual output of the image, Donnie, because it can be zoomed in and pulled out. So my interpretation
of course, then why didn't they add it up the same way Why, NASA's NASA, why aren't they adding it up to have it zoom in, pan out the same way so there's no confusion? Now there's ultimate confusion. I'm just pointing something out. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I have never said that, it's the wrong image. I'm saying question the image. I'm saying look at the image. We're looking at the image. We don't see the Rocky Mountains. We don't see any cities if it's at this point. If it's supposed to be taken at this point, the water should be looking correctly. The water doesn't even look right. Well, here's I was a diver. I'm a PADI diver. I've dove, since I was a child. We're seeing water around Florida, Mexico, and New Orleans that looks like the same type of water you'd see down in the Caribbean. What? It doesn't make any sense.
I can understand that, and I guess where I'm going to go to next, and I probably already know the answer. Do you trust now I know you trust people, and I know that it's hard to trust or to listen to someone who's disagreeing with you. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that you can agree with anybody else like I agree with them, or are we just into a point where we're just going to question everything, and then and I suppose, as awful as it sounds, but I'll tell you what, to research everything, no one man or no one woman can do it on their own, and I've known from my own
to that.
I know from my own experience, the moment I start veering off, the space outside our atmosphere, I'm unable to do either or very well. So, but my question again was to you, because I know my friend T-Bar and you have been going back and forth behind this. I believe T-Bar explicitly more than I believe you. And what I find myself doing is I'm rooting for you to say, okay, let's move on to the next thing. But we never get to the point of moving on to the next thing. It's always just kind of, we get to it, but it's never, we never say we're sorry or I'm sorry, or we never show the people how we bring this together in a certain way, and I know what ends up happening and I don't know whose fault it is or not, is you end up putting out information, and then that press, that push to resolve the question comes, and in most cases it looks like an attack on you, and you see, I'm really trying to change though, because I don't find that that's productive for the discussion either. I would love just to get in here and have us yell at each other right off the microphone, but what purpose is that going to serve? And at the same time, when I have people saying to me, if you have Donny Gillson on your show, I'm going to kill your show. Or, you're going to have Donny Gillson on the show, you can see my backside, and that's how you're going to see. What? For all those people who want to do that, who want to make those kind of statements, all I can say is, me and Donnie will not have a lot more discussions like this, because I'm going to let him do his business and he's going to let me do my business, and I suppose that's the best place for us to be. But for all those people who are out there hating on this show, hating that Donny Gillson's here speaking to me, hating that I'm talking to Donny Gillson, I feel this is a more civilized way to bring an end to the discussion, if not to solve anything, but to walk away in our own space, in a positive way, at least. In a positive way. If you disagree, get out of my face, get my name out of your mouth. I'll do the same for you, because, it sounds kind of harsh, but sometimes when you're opposing views with someone every time they say your name, you instantly think they're saying something bad about you. And that, that may not be true either.
And I 100% agree with that. I have called out Musgrave and I still have not heard one thing from him. He's not
like me though.
Well, he goes on, and he definitely gets online with my other nemesis and does a Skype interview with that thing. But we won't mention any names.
You want to get on the air with Ian on for an hour on another Impact?
Yeah, we can talk. As long, and I think Ian Musgrave is I think he's a really nice guy. He sounds like a really nice guy. Of course some of the stuff I do is for show, and we know that. I like to,
Shame on you, Donny Gillson. Shame on you.
Shame on me. Shame on me. But at least I admit it.
Yes.
At least I admit it. And I do a lot of it for entertainment value, and people that know me know that I do it for entertainment value. I don't go out, saying bad things about people and meaning it. I mean, these people that come after me, I mean, they think I'm Satan in the flesh.
Yeah,
I mean, it is gotten to the most ridiculous part of what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost downright harsh on what people want to come up with. I mean, there's new videos out now that are about, showing my family crest and saying that I worship the devil, and just because I'm a Freemason and because I'm a Knights Templar, that I am the Satan in the flesh, the Antichrist, and to all those people, it's absolutely false.
It's a control. We're all, and all of us in our own little way are trying to, and honestly, right now at this time, with a lot of stuff that's going on out in space as far as the 2012 alignments and planets and everything, we're in this period right now, Donnie, where everybody wants to have a voice and be heard. And
everybody should.
They want to be heard in a way that may not be exactly, they may be saying something. They may want a response after they say that something, but they may never get that response because what they're saying doesn't incite that type of response. It's a good time for all listeners, viewers, researchers to come together, research, and thought.
Well, here's the one thing, the naysayers all had an opportunity. I was on the Clyde Lewis show pretty much immediately after. Here's an international radio show that, Clyde Lewis was waiting for all the naysayers to come in. He opened up 2 hours worth of phone lines for people to have their voice and voice their opinions. Not one person called in. Not one. Not one person called in the negative. Everybody called in the positive, but nobody called in the negative. So that makes us start to think a little bit. When people that want, as you say, want to voice their opinions, then why on an international radio show that people that knew, I'm not to, pat my back, but, I get 5,000-6,000 views easily on a YouTube channel. So, they know I'm going on. Being told that the call-ins are welcome, even on my own radio show, I welcome anybody to come on my show. If you're going to attack me, well, I'm going to come back at you like a pit bull. But but if you have an argument, a debatable argument, I have no problem talking about that in a calm and collective fashion.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just fun to yell at each other too, And
it is fun. It's good radio.
I know that for the listeners, unfortunately for the listeners, because sometimes a lot of listeners and viewers are kind of half living vicariously through their hosts or their viewers. So what ends up happening is when their researcher is getting into a heated debate, they don't have the release that the host, like that you and I have, in a way. We can get out there and release all that energy, where all our friends are left wanting to yell at Donny Gillson because Donny Gillson and Francis aren't getting along. You know what I mean? And in the same respect, I know that your listeners and friends would like to show me a few things. And in most cases, and I know where my weakness is, but it's okay. I don't mind being, under the curve or behind the curve, because I'm really not. People say, well, Francis is a little bit, to this or to that for his own good. But listen, I'm going to do it my way.
Well, you've even openly admitted, when you had Oakland on, you've openly admitted you're a little bit over your head, but you are now starting, and I was impressed. I listened to your, when you were on Revolutionary Radio a couple of weeks ago, I listened to you. You sound very, you were starting to get into the esoteric thinking. You're starting to explore that area, which to me, I think you're going to find out a lot of different things, and I think it's going to open your mind a lot as you explore that.
Well, and then I hope at the same time I keep, I do, because I'm really, to teach yourself about science and astronomy and the tools to actually do something, it's really hard. So, like I said, I can't hardly spend much time outside of just doing that. In order for anything I say to really have any real weight, I could go and learn about the things I need to learn about, but when that doesn't mean I should start speaking on it right away. And the reason why I even got into this in the first place, because I felt with the images I was taking in 2011 with the whole Terrell HMO back in 2011, the reason, I was compelled to come on because I had taken pictures that I had to come and report on.
How does everybody call Terrell? Isn't it Terrell? Everybody calls him Terrell. Is that his real name?
I have no idea. I have no idea. And Terrell, and I say Terrell, I mean, that's just the way I want it. Terrell.
Everybody, whatever.
Terrell. Well, anyways, we're gonna have Terrell on a future show because we're gonna have it out too. And honestly, Donnie, it's going a lot differently than I expected, and I think that I'm satisfied. But then again, I hope that I'm satisfied at the end because I just want to impress upon you.
My head went in a totally different direction.
I'm saying, I hope it's like after a fight. It's after the fight you might have lost, where you're thinking all the things you should have done. I just hope it's not an occasion like that. Listen,
I think what we show, and I think the difference that we started off heated. And I think people were expecting this big old brawl. And, I respect your thoughts as you should respect mine. We have different views. You're going to always have a different view than me and vice versa. But in the end, Francis, whether right or wrong, we've got people thinking. We got people talking. And that's the job and that's the responsibility we have as radio hosts. This is to bring, it's not all about us, putting our egos to the side. Yeah, we have the microphone, we have the power to talk, but all set aside, we get other people thinking. I mean, that's what I love about my listeners is a lot, many of them don't agree with what I have to say, but they love that I am trying to seek the truth in my own special way, as you are and as they are. And that's what I love about 32 Degrees of Insanity. And actually, I don't know if you know who was actually the person that kind of created that name of the show. Do you know who was the one that created that name?
No, sir. Better not be me.
It was 32 Degrees of Craziness, and that was Nighthawk. That's what he called. I think it was 32 Degrees of Craziness. He first called it, and I was like, insanity sounds much better because everybody's going to call me insane after they.
I had 32 Degrees of Intelligence one night. I changed Collision Course to 32 Degrees of Intelligence.
Well, and everybody called. We've got 69 degrees of sanity. We've got 32 bits of logic. But here's the thing. If it wasn't for me, there would be, there would be no humor, everybody, does, I got people talking, and that's good. That's good.
I want the listeners to know, for me, and just, for me personally, it's been a distraction. And that's just one report out of millions or thousands of viewers. Because of my unique situation, unfortunately, Donnie, it's been a distraction when I should be taking every minute I can and trying to find something interesting to point a telescope out at. I've let myself whittle away this situation. So, it's great to have you on here for this first show because in the end, this is a beginning and an end at the same time. And it's not an end to be sad about. Because in the end, or through this process, you and I are going to remain friends. And if somewhere in the future something brings us together again, we're going to do it in a most civilized manner. And
we're going to go, wow, holy crap, and we're, it's two minds coming together, which is great because I believe that that's where research, especially people that are dedicated to their research like you and I are, at some point there has to be a point when we meet together. And that, and I think that's where we've come right now. We're coming together. I'm questioning, I'm asking you, hey, what's this? Hey, what's that? I caught this in space. I caught this in space. Let's talk about it. This is what we're going to talk about tonight on 32 Degrees of Insanity. I'm actually going to share a desktop with you. I'll send you all that information. And we're going to look at some pictures tonight while we're on the air, and we're going to, kind of, a lot of people know what these pictures are.
So you're going to put me on the spot.
I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to have you say what you think it is, and then I'll say what I think it is, and then maybe we can come to a happy medium. We're not going to, be in an argument. I don't want to, I don't want it to be that way. We've created a show today here in the afternoon, where we're civil. That's exactly the way I want it on 32 Degrees of Insanity tonight because you're one of the guys that would like to have as an ally. You know, you've never, you've said something, said a couple of things to me, but, as you said today, you apologized for it. I take that. I apologize for anything that I've ever said, because we never had this opportunity, really. We had a little bit of an opportunity on my show when Terrell was on a few weeks ago, but we haven't had this opportunity, and I thank God for this opportunity, because I believe in synchronicity. I believe in reason people being brought together, and I believe that you and I have a lot of valid points, and if something that I can catch in space and say, hey, Francis, let's figure out what this is, maybe you can come up with a scientific explanation for it. And then if I agree with that, of course I'm going to say, oh, yeah, Francis is right. I have no problem with that.
And it's difficult. It's honestly, for the listeners, it's difficult to bring some of the two things together, because because the way we look at things, the tools we're using, they're hard to bring together into the same format and to compare, apples to apples and oranges to oranges. But I do hope that in the future, that if something does come up where you feel like, because I don't want to be the guy to say no either. You know what I mean? I want to say no once, and I just want it to mean no, and not because I want it to be no. I want the truth to come out. And I've always said this. I feel if something is uncovered to me, or I discover something, my mission is to report it as soon as possible. But I'm like, unfortunately, I find myself reporting on the non-reports, and especially right now, because it's a very lax time, astronomically speaking. Now, it's very important what's going on out in space, but there is no, and from my research, there are no grand event that I'm waiting for, or some object that's I'm waiting on still. From my viewpoint, there's very little. There's not nearly as much anxiety this year as there was last year, even though we're already 2-3 months.
We're just starting, so we really were we expecting the Japanese tsunami? We weren't expecting that at all. Although I was the one on a radio show in San Francisco the day before the tsunami, I predicted it. Well, I predicted something to happen within the Ring of Fire, and something big. And and that was on a radio show. And I remember that night when I got the call from my friend down in Australia stating, she's showing me this raw footage of the tsunami rolling in of this aircraft that was flying overhead. I was like, craziness, man. This is just insane, because none of us really expected something major like that to happen, that we would see something like that in our lifetimes, and hopefully we'll never see something like that again. But who knows what's going to happen? We don't know if Nibiru is some sort of dimensional thing, if it even exists at all. I've been kind of following down the research that Nibiru was hit many moons ago. And that is under intelligent control, which that would mean that would be a rogue planet. NASA talked about these rogue planets last year that are out there in the universe that are just rolling around with no orbital patterns.
What's funny, Donnie, and this is why it's across the board. In the beginning of the show, I was talking about how. And here I am, I'm trying to stick on the side of science, and we've got real scientists doing some really, lousy work out there. And in the event of things that people may believe there's a planet Tai Chi out there. There's not a planet Tai Chi out there, according to the research. It's just hypothesized to be.
Well, it's hypothesis. They're actually supposed to come out with the research here in March.
Well, that's right. They have they're going to have a whole new round of images coming from WISE in March, and this is the stuff that I'm going to get my hand, and this is going to be the stuff I'm sure you're going to be diving into too. And and now that I'm thinking of it, it would be a great place to start working. If you find something call me or something or something. And if I have to say no, I'll just have to say no, and I'm not going to. No patsy around with it, and no more calling Donnie bad names or that, because listen, I can't stop you. And in fact, I've seen it. I know how many people are behind you, and and in all honesty, I watched the video today and I was entertained, and in maybe the back of my head I was saying, well, somebody's got to look through the junk. Somebody might as well do it or whatever. But I'm going to get so much grief for that. I'm going to get. So
well, and that's all it is. That's, I put on a show. I definitely, it's the entertainer in me. I mean, I used to work for Disney, for God's sakes. It's, that's what it,
are you paid by Disney to fool us all, Donnie?
You got it, man.
Are you a shill? Are you?
I'm a shill. Paid by Disney to create. Yeah, right. I wish I was paid.
I recorded it. It's down. It must be true.
Yeah, if it said it must be true. There is truth in everything that everybody says, right?
Listen, Donnie, we're gonna have what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop us for a second. I'm just gonna a little station. I'm not gonna run a break. I'm just gonna say a break, and then it's an hour goes quick, doesn't it?
It does. It certainly does. It's hard to get a lot of things in an hour.
Okay, well, Donnie, I want to thank you for being on the first episode of the Impact Zone on Revolution Radio's new Phase 2 daytime schedule. The Impact Zone will be heard every Monday through Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you're going to get a chance to have opposing views interact in one place. Now, you might have thought there'd be a lot of yelling and stuff going on today, and maybe there should be and maybe there shouldn't be, but we're just going to do it each hour as the hour presents itself. If there's to be yelling and screaming, then you can bet there's going to be yelling and screaming. If there's going to be some sort of reasonable discussion and an agreement, then let it happen. Don't blame the participants. Me and Donnie just basically told each other that go back, do your research, don't stop what you're doing. We may not agree with each other. Francis isn't going to come in there and tell you how wrong you are, even though he feels that you are wrong. That you're not going to stop, and it's only hurting me and being a distraction to me, which actually reduces the amount of science that I'm supposed to be, quote-unquote, doing over here on myself. So, honestly, I let you weaken me a little bit, Donnie. You broke me down, but I'm standing back up tall, and I want you to pose a challenge to me and tell us when we're going to be on the air tonight.
Yeah, tonight we'll be on 32 Degrees of Insanity, 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll be going all the way till about midnight. I got 3 hours for you, so we got a lot we can cover. Probably the first half hour I usually do news, so we'll probably bring you on right around 9:30 or so. We had our guest Brian Golightly and Laura Magdalene Eisenhower last week. So a lot of good things coming up in the near future as well. But we've been promoting this show here on YouTube for a couple weeks now, so it should be a really good turnout tonight. So I'm really excited to have you on tonight, Francis.
Okay, well, I'm going to what we'll do. I'm going to give you because you said you're going to show me pictures and everything. And this
I got a thing. It's called Join Me. I think it's called joinme.com, where I got to test it out here. We used it recently on a freedomizerradio.com host meeting, so I'm going to see if it works well, and I'll shoot you the info, and maybe we can do a dry run before the show.
Definitely. I'm going to not hold back my opinions. I'm not going to.
Not a problem.
I'm not going to make the single word I use at night tonight. But all I can do is give you my honest report. Mm-hmm. And as far as this conversation, as far as our interaction goes. And in most cases, and I'll tell everyone, I've interacted with Richard. And Donnie knows I've interacted with a lot of people. I've listened to what they've had to say. I've somehow maintained who I am in the middle because I never really agreed with Richard, and I'm not associated to anyone. Even though Donny Gillson, that man Donny Gillson, is going to say I'm associated to anybody, I'm not. The only thing I'm associated to is my opinion and my hope that I'm smart enough to know the truth when I need to know it.
Oh, and also, so you're not surprised, we're going to have a moderator, a neutral moderator for us today as well. Chris Gio from the Truth.
I don't like him.
You don't want him on?
You know what? You want to know what happened?
It's up to you. If you don't want,
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this on air because I thought about it today. You know when you had Terrell on the air, right?
Yeah.
So Bob Tuskin calls me that day.
Yeah.
On the phone with Bob Tuskin is Chris Gio, and I've never spoken to Chris Gio or even talked to him before.
Sure.
And what do you think they wanted to ask me that day?
I have no idea. What did they want to ask you? Something about me? I don't know.
No, actually, it was about Terrell.
Okay.
It was about Terrell, and they wanted to get the lowdown on him and if I had any inside information. And I'll just tell you that After thinking about that call, I find it peculiar at best why my information would be, it was almost like a setup, Donnie. And so then when I got on the radio show that night, I was waiting for the setup.
So you got the call before you came onto my show?
Yeah, before Terrell got on your show either. So,
really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know about that.
So yeah, it's interesting that Chris Gio, who you have some association with.
Chris Gio is one of my best friends, yeah.
Would call up and try to get that background inside information, and then on top of that wouldn't know it already. And maybe I felt like he was just trying to get my...
I think that's what he was trying to do. He was just trying to get your opinion. Chris Gio's a pretty stand-up guy, because he told me I had a talk with him.
He's ready to believe anything, Donnie.
Well...
Yeah.
He runs a really good show. He has Bob Tuscan on his show a lot. He calls Bob the voice of reason. Maybe
Bob just utters a couple of words like, yeah. I wish I could do that. I wish my, I got that far.
Yeah, exactly. And be as popular as Tuscan is, yeah. That would be interesting. But, we were on the show last Saturday, where we were talking about this particular shot of the Earth, and we brought Tuscan in and got his opinions on it, and he was kind of the voice of reason. He's like, well, he's like, I'm just going to be the neutral party here, and say, well, maybe it's a photoshopped image, or it's just not right. It's just but and what I just find curious about that whole image is why this is regardless of NASA. We have the mainstream media, not even us, the mainstream media saying, well, here's a shot of Earth. Now here's the new shot of Earth. And then,
they're so dumb.
They're so, but it's like, people wouldn't even question it. They wouldn't even question, wow, look at that Earth, man. That looks pretty cool. Not even questioning, boy, it looks weird, doesn't it?
The worst part about it, and I know that ethical reporting is supposed to cover our butts and what we hear from the ethical reporting, but I really hate mouthpieces, and that's all I really see. Right. And I guess, well, I'm different. I'm not a mouthpiece because I'm only myself, and I know that I'm only speaking for myself, and I cannot trust that person I'm seeing on TV is honestly telling me their opinion, which I really need to make a decision. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not the way it used to be back. I don't even know if it's ever been that way. But at least, I was raised by my grandparents, and they trusted, the news back in the 40s and 50s. I think it was after Kennedy got shot is when the mainstream media itself went downhill. And it's shows like ours, and also, of the truth seekers and the subscribers out there that are questioning everything that is, making, unless the sheep will want to continue watching Fox and Dancing with the Stars.
I see it as an evolution of the medium as far as TV goes. I can honestly see companies sponsoring a commercial and just wanting to put out honest, wholesome entertainment without too much pre-thought on what they're really trying to feed us. Because I can see a business wanting to make more sales and equating that to some honest-to-goodness information. These days, they are acclimating us to every crazy thought, idea. I mean, and this is why I worry too, Donnie, that I know that YouTube's a great thing for all of us, but they're already acclimating us to believe everything and its sister, so that we'll believe anything and its sister. And I don't think, as a civilization, as the world is, as reality goes, all that stuff they make us believe can really happen. You know what I mean? The way it's set up is like it's on the plate. Here's the platter. Here it comes. Hold on to your, grab your ankles and, scream goodbye. So.
Well, that's why I think, for instance, probably the yesterday's Super Bowl during the halftime. Boy, was that Illuminati-based satanic ritual that was happening there in front of the audience. We have MIA, who is that.
I saw it, boy.
She flips off the entire world. It's just it's a poop on your face. Where are the good days of yesteryear? What happened to our All in the Family, our I Love Lucy's?
Yeah.
Where it was. was good, wholesome entertainment. And now we are, our children is really what we got to focus on. Is who cares about what we have to say? Is what these kids are starting to believe.
And I do. We have a 13-year-old boy, and he I guess you don't know until you have hindsight, but he's good, and we're all good. And I hope that you and Vicky are good, and everybody in your life is well and in good place. What was I think I was going to say something important. It's just this acclamation, and the one symbol I found important in all that staging and all that was the M, which when it was the W. It's not an M to me. When I seen it, I didn't see an M. I seen the W, which coincides with that new mathematics, the new self-generating, self-feeding vortex. That was the one thing that my eye kept on getting attached to, was not the M, but I was seeing a W. That was.
Did you see the circle with the X as well?
Yeah, I saw it all.
It was all right there. It was like, what are the, it's total subliminal type of Illuminati satanic ritual that was taking place there. I didn't even watch the Super Bowl. I won't go into that opium.
I guess we can have the Super Bowl as entertainment too, because that's what just people, please, listeners, please, don't get so wrapped up in your entertainment that your life becomes somebody else's story.
Exactly.
And Donnie, listen, I'm going to talk to you tonight, because guess what? That's it.
All right, brother. Have a good night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
What are you guys doing on Monday, February 6th? Did you know that you now have a daytime schedule available to you at freedomslips.com? That's Revolution Radio. That's where you are right now, just in case you were wondering. And here's the deal. At 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, we have Deacon John with the Libertarian Hour. After that, the world-famous and infamous Francis Walsh with Impact Zone, also debuting Monday, February 6th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And guess what happens after that? My show. That's correct. At This Moment with Angela Black and Peter Petrov, my new co-host, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Be there or be square. We're all going to do some great daytime talk about truth, and then some more truth. So, see ya.
Donna Devane, where we do more than talk about the problem. We talk about and implement real solutions for real people living real lives. Listen to Awakening with Donna Devane, the Barefoot Guru.
That's Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, www.freedomslips.com.
Hello, folks. This is Acid. Have you visited our site lately? It's at www.freedomslips.com.
Revolution Radio.
Worldwide Internet Radio.
You are listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'd like to take a moment of your time and invite you to explore our main page. Here we have a variety of different avenues to explore. Under different headings, you can find things on the earth, such as real-time weather, jet springs, and earthquakes. Links to alternative news sources like Drudge and Rope.
www